Hey everyone, it's me. I want to talk about how certain aspects of parental estrangement are so much more damaging than others in the history behind it, and also who it affects the most. When estrangement primarily happens, we have to understand that the person who left has been planning this for a while. It's not that someone decides to up and leave. People plan an estrangement, and it's who knows how long it takes. It might be a day, a week, a month, a year, a couple of years, but they say when I'm old enough or whatever, I'm going to get out of the house. And so a lot of times an estrangement has been planned, and then when someone estranges, what they do is there's a whiteboard with the family tree, and they start erasing people from the whiteboard, from their family tree. And eventually the tree basically has no leaves, or has only leaves on one side, which may be their father's family or their mother's family, depending on who they estranged from. And so I want to talk about the fact that throughout history, it is known that there has been a wiping of, whether it's a human race, a certain religion, etc. And going along those lines, I just want to talk about and touch on a documentary I saw, which was taken at birth. It was about Dr. Hicks and the Hicks Clinic, and he opened this clinic for God knows what reason. He may have had good intentions, but his son and his wife were not able to conceive, so it may have been born of this experience and situation. But what he did was, it was decades ago, so the women in the town got pregnant out of wedlock, who knows how many, and some of them desired to have abortions, and they would go see Dr. Hicks, who they believed performed abortions, and he would convince these women and these girls to carry the baby to a certain term, which was normally when you believe a baby can survive outside of the womb, and basically tell these girls and these women that they had families. He had families that wanted children, and so he would convince them to carry the baby to somewhat term, and normally it's kind of known that he possibly induced labor, because some of the infants came out at 3, 4, and 5 pounds, and then basically would give them, a couple of bucks and say, go get yourself a new dress and thanks, and then word on the street got out, and families that were desperate for children were told, I'll have a baby for you, you're next in line. For $1,000 I can get you an infant. So then when the baby was born, they would notify his nurse or secretary would notify the family and wait and say, hey, we have a baby for you, show up at the back door of the clinic and with $1,000 and you get a baby. And a lot of these babies were handed out, but very sickly. And so some of the adoptive mothers would say, what if the baby doesn't survive on the ride home? He'd say, oh, come and get another one. The next one will be for you. So it was a sick and twisted way. But what I'm trying to get to is, most important aspect of this story is the birth certificate would be manipulated, where it would show the adoptive mother as the biological mother and the father, the adoptive father as the biological father, and he would erase the infant's history. And so a lot of these children today, the Hicks children, don't know and have no idea who their biological parents were, who their biological siblings are, etc. He's basically wiped it. So when you're talking estrangement, one individual or multiple, if you have multiple children, or just maybe one or a handful, are going about and erasing the names off the family tree. When I was a child, I went ahead and created a family tree, and it said mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, my sisters and grandparents on both sides. And today we don't have that. Today we have the erasing of the family, and it's damaging to the parent who's erased and the child who's doing the erasing, whether they believe it or not. But the people most affected by the estrangement are the children, the grandchildren, who aren't being told about their biological grandparents, or are told maybe the grandparent has died I don't know what stories are being told because I've never actually estranged my children from my parents or whatever. I'm just saying that the people that are suffering the most are the children that are being told about their family history and are not being allowed to learn about their family history from their grandparents and great-grandparents. I can't even imagine, because I remember when my grandma, I've always asked her about her history and her family and her parents and this and that, but the last couple of years of her life, I would go record her talking, and I went and did my grandmother's story where I got information about her from, discussing with her what she, when did she ride the bus, and what kind of her favorite books and her favorite childhood memories, and Christmas, and what her family was like, and what her parents were like, and what her great-grandparents were like. So I just want to say, when we think about it and put it into perspective, the parent and the child who have now estranged, they do suffer, but it's the children, the grandchildren, who aren't allowed to know their grandparents, who suffer the most, who have the right to know what their family history is all about. Not just for medical, but just for, just for the experience and the memories and the experiences we create together. When, I love to go see my grandma. I'd fix her sewing box for her, and we'd talk, and we'd make cookies, and it was such a joy. So just, that's something to think about. Please, if you're on the fence whether you should estrange or not, or you've estranged, just think about your kids and think about what they're missing out on. And it's the family history you most likely enjoyed when you were a child with your grandparents. So think about it. Just want to bring that up. I hope everyone's having a great day. Bye-bye.